Hello, welcome to Boardgames with Niramas. I'm Joseph, and today I'm here with Jonathan Fryxelius. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back. We've done this before, where we talked about upcoming products from Fryx Games and so on, and mostly, of course, Terraforming Mars related. And today, it's something that I've been looking forward to a lot. The Terraforming Mars dice game is what we're going to be talking about today. And right now, as you're watching this video, it's on Kickstarter, so there will be a link in the video description and so on. You can go check that out. So I want to start by just asking, how does it feel to have it on Kickstarter? It's been a long process, I understand, of developing it.
Yes, it's been a very long process, much longer than we anticipated. We wanted to release Dice Game 2 years ago, basically. So to finally have it on Kickstarter is a great relief, and it lets us also move on, see the reception, and then move on to other long-awaited projects. So it's really cool.
And you right now you have Angel Fury that's just released.
Yes, that's our greatest gaming project yet. It's a really expensive project for us, and it's a really big box with a lot of really cool stuff in it.
So it's a lot of miniatures, right?
Yes, over 200 miniatures.
Oh, yeah.
So it's our attempt to take the miniature gaming genre and push it down into the board game format. So we like these epic miniature games, but they're usually too long for us. We are all of us in the company, we're parents of small kids. We don't have a lot of time anymore. When we were young, we wanted to play these 8-10 hour games. That was just fun. Now we want a little bit shorter games to have the time to finish them. So this is our attempt to make these large, grand scale, epic miniature games into a board game format, which can be played in two hours approximately, or sometimes 3 hours. It depends.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and to Terraform Mars, a dice game. So what can the viewers, what can they expect? What is Terraform Mars dice game?
We started to develop the dice game based on a suggestion from Stephen Buonocore. Actually, he asked for such a version, and we started thinking about it, and we separately came up with several versions of a possible dice game. And I remember being the first one to suggest a dice game in a finished form. So I 3D printed some dice on my home printer, and I made some cards. And it turned out that was a good motivation for the others to join in and completely diss my idea and make their own versions, which was much better. And I admit that. So basically what we have now is based on Daniel's first suggestion for a dice game, which was much simpler than what I put forward. And then we've been working on it together for several years. So now it's a group effort. All of us are included in the development of this product. So what is it? Well, first and foremost, it's a dice game. So if you like the thought of having customized dice and rolling dice, and I like that mechanic, I like dice overall, then this is for you. We also wanted to make something which was considerably easier and faster to play than Terraforming Mars. I don't know if your viewers knew this, but Prelude, which is the most loved expansion for the base game, was the only expansion which wasn't planned from the start. So we had prototypes of Turmoil and Colonies and Venus all from the start when we published the game in 2016, but we didn't have Prelude by then. And Prelude was a direct answer to the feedback that some people thought that the game was too long and it was, a kind of a drag. So we designed Prelude to fix that playtime for some people, and yet other people thought it was completely fine without it. But even so, even with Prelude, the game can be quite long. And if you're playing with all the expansions, which a lot of people also want to do, then it is a quite long game. So Terraforming Mars is basically something that should be simpler, so we can introduce younger players to it. It should be faster. It should be more easy to understand, less language dependent, less heavy, and still, even if it's simpler, it should still have strategic depth, and it should still be a gamer's game for those who want that.
Because I would say, I tried a few different iterations of the prototypes, and the game that I connect this to, in my experience, mostly is Nations, the dice game, which is like the dice game to Nations. And I heard some people say that when they heard the name. They just say like, oh, is it a roll and write? Is it like, and just like don't think about it in that sense. Think about it more of a, you still have cards, you still have a map of Mars, you still have this, but the drive behind what's happening in the game is the dice instead of the card, in a sense.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. In my first prototype of the game, which we didn't go with, I exchanged all the tiles for dice. So you actually place the dice on the board.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I wanted to cut away more parts of the game. Now, then, in the actual version that we did, we reintroduced some of the components, like the tiles, for instance, again. So it has been a lot of questions about, how much can you cut away from Terraforming Mars and still be Terraforming Mars? How much can you do? How much simpler does it get, and is that worth what you're losing when you're cutting down things? And I think we ended up in a really good spot.
And I felt like, because I think by now, I think I said it to you, and I think I've said it to my viewers as well, with the Eris Expedition game, it didn't really hit the right place for me. I didn't get caught up in that like I did with the original game. And I felt like when I played Terraforming Mars, the dice game, the prototype, like 6 months ago or so, I felt like that felt more like Terraforming Mars than Eris Expedition feels like Terraforming Mars. So I really am excited to see the final product of this and then play it.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Maybe your viewers doesn't know this either, but Eris Expedition was not our own creation.
Yeah.
So basically, Stronghold Games came to us with their idea of filling this same market in a lot of ways, the same market as we tried to do with dice games. So we have the dice game prototype, and Stronghold Games came to us and they said, we have developed a version of Terraforming Mars which will be faster and easier to play and things like that. So it was actually some kind of competition there. Which one should we go with? And we didn't want to let go of the dice game, and they didn't want to let go of the Eris Expedition. So let's do both. And they had their will, and we published the Eris Expedition first. And it's a great game in what it does, because it does drastically reduce the downtime. So you're always playing all the time. Everyone is playing all the time.
Yeah.
But we really strive for in Terraforming Mars dice game to have a version of the game you will recognize yourself, but it is a new game. It is new rules, and it's a new puzzle to solve. It's a new way of doing things, which requires, let's say, it's more of a different game than Eris Expedition is.
I like the part where, like, on your turn, you're doing like actions, but you're doing like them in two separate phases. So you have like the I don't know what you called it, but like the preparation, the
support action and the main action.
Yeah, I like that, and I don't think I've seen that in any other game. Like, that's something new that you have created, which is, again, and I think it works really nicely with because you're using the dice as the resources or as payment for playing cards or for making projects. So yeah, and if I have some videos of an earlier prototype on the channel, but they are of an earlier prototype, so not everything is up to date in that one. But of course, people can check that out if they just want to get a sense of how the game plays. So do you have something to show us in terms of the new components or new materials? Of course, it's not a final product, I understand. It's still prototype, right? But
yeah, it's still a prototype. You'll find the most updated graphics in the Kickstarter page, actually. So you should go there and watch it. But we have this new cover art, for example. So this is the Terraforming Mars dice game cover art. And just as in the base game, Isaac, who is the graphic designer of the base game, and he uses these panorama images. So you have the image going around the edges. And here is just a nice little detail is they're talking in dice icons about how they're going to terraform Mars, and then you see the Martian dice coming down as an asteroid. So I like the style. It's simplified, somewhat more abstract, not as physically correct as the base game, and that's also much of what we do with the dice game. We let go of the hyper focus on the realism and do something a little bit more cheerful, so a little bit more imaginative in this way. The board is much smaller than the base game. It's only twofold, and the tiles are smaller. The steps are fewer. The ocean tiles are fewer, but you still have milestones. You still have awards. So a lot of the same overall game mechanics are there, but they are treated a little bit differently than in the base game. Then, of course, the subject of the matter is the dice. So here are the 5 dice colors, and the dice mechanic in this game is that each color has its own 3 sides, 3 icons, and one of the icons are on 3 sides, one of the icons are on 2 sides, and one of the icons are on 1 side. So you have common, uncommon, and rare resources. So you have to take this into account when you're rolling the dice, which is the most likely you're going to get. And so the production, you still have the engine building aspect of the game because you're adding production cards to your tableau, and that means you can roll more and more dice. But you're still not going to know exactly which side the dice are going to be facing upwards, but you know which kinds of dice you want and which kinds of dice you're going to be aiming at. And then, of course, we, even though dice games are inherently random, because of course it's dice rolls, it has to be, but we have been working hard to make the randomness be mitigated by skill and by timing and by many decisions. So one of the most usual support action that you're doing is that you're throwing away a die to turn another die to whichever side you want. So even if you're not rolling exactly what you need, there's always ways to correct that.
I think that's one of the most important parts of a dice game, because you want, like you say, you want the excitement of like, oh, I got a perfect roll and that's fun, but you also want the way, you don't want, like, if one person is getting lucky over and over, you don't want them to just take the lead too quickly. So another thing I thought was cool in the prototype, at least, was like there's a little race going on, so whoever gets to certain points, or terraforming rating, I think it's called, first we'll get to pick between some bonus cards. I thought that was a fun twist as well.
Yeah, and that's something new, because of course we have this race in the base game for the milestones, and we have milestones in this game as well, but the bonus cards are something new. So maybe I should explain that. So on the points track here, you have marked on 5 points and on 12 points, and the first one, actually each one who gets there gets to choose one of the bonus cards. So if you're 4 players, there's going to be 8 bonus cards. And the first one to reach 5 points just simply looks at all of them and just takes one and plays it for free. The next one to reach 5 takes the remaining 7 cards and plays one for free. But of course, it's possible for one player to reach both 5 and 12 points before another player even reaches 5. So in the end, it's everybody gets the card, but the one who's last to do it will have no choice. We'll just simply get what's left there. And that is a really funny race, actually, to try to compete in.
Because it's also depending on what corporation you have, what production you built up, what strategy you're going for. It could be important for you to get there, to get that certain card that you really fit your strategy. So,
and I think that another thing that has been given the base game a lot of credit is the fact that you're going to build your engine, and Terraforming Mars actually lets you run that engine for a while. A lot of other games they are completely perfectly timed, so that by the time you have built up your engine and you're feeling now we're going full speed, the game ends. But a lot of people have been giving praise to Terraforming Mars because you can build up your engine and then you can actually run that really cool engine for some generations before the game ends. And of course, we're trying to reach, even though this game is even shorter with lesser steps on the terraforming parameters, we try to get the same feeling that you can build up your production and you get to use that production for some turns and use your effects. So I hope we succeed in that as well.
Yeah, and it's on Kickstarter right now. As you say, people can check out the page there for more information as well. Is there anything else you want to add about the game that you think is important, or something that you feel is important in the game, like when you develop the game, when the final result is here? Any thoughts about the about the game to add?
Well, it's a good question. As I said, our goal with this game is to make a simplified version of the game,
Yeah.
which is simpler to get into. And that doesn't mean that it's not. It doesn't mean that it's trivial. You still have a lot of interesting decisions, and if you really want to, if you want to think about it, there's a lot to think about. But I can play this with my 7-year-old daughter, and we can play it with our kids,
Yeah.
and maybe that's something that you usually can't do with the base game or with Ars Expedition.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that it's more icon based, but we still try to find easy icons which are really self-explanatory. And the cards are smaller. This is this is one of the things that we've been doing the last couple of years. We decided that some of our games they have cards with too little information on them to warrant the big TCG standard cards. And the big cards also take a lot of space on the table. And that is also one thing with this game, that it should take less space on the table.
Yeah.
So we decided to change the card size for several of our prototypes to a smaller size. And now we call that the Fryxelius standard size. So it's 55 times 77 millimeters. So it's the same proportions and ratios as TCG cards, but it's smaller. And this also is easier for younger players to hold the cards in a good way. And we've found that really positive among the younger players. So that's also it's not game changing, but it's interesting.
Yeah. And as you say, a lot of games have, on the card, a very small part of the card is actually needed for the gameplay, and a lot of it is just filling out the space. So that's a good point.
And I see different companies seems to go different ways with this. For example, if you play Lost Cities, have you played that one?
Oh yeah, that's huge cards.
Yeah, they have huge cards, and still it's the only thing that matters on those cards are a number and a color. That's the only thing. And yet they have bigger cards, so they seem to go the opposite way here.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, production wise as well, I don't mind the idea of going smaller. And I mean, they're still not like, I don't know what that is called, but there are these like Fantasy Flight games that are the small cards that are really small.
Yeah, they're like half size.
Yeah.
You can fit 2 of them on a usual trading card game. You can fit 2 of them. Yeah.
So I mean, this is like something in between, really. So
yeah, and that's also what we thought. I mean, you have to have a lot of reasons to introduce a new card size. It's not something you should just do for the fun of it. So we had to try out several different kinds of standards that were out there, and in the end we didn't like the other standards. We didn't like the smallest cards wouldn't work because that's too small. So we needed something in between, and in the end we wanted to do also a size which makes sense in the metric system. I don't know if you know this as well, but the TCG standard card, the size is 3.5 times 2.5 inch.
Oh, okay.
That's what defines it. So it's 3.5 times 2.5 inch, and that's not good in metrics. So basically that's 88.9 millimeters in height and 63.5 millimeters in width. So that's a standard TCG size. And I have nothing, there's no problem with the size, but it's a problem to try to remember that. And it's always, for the metric scale, it doesn't look elegant at all. So we wanted to do something with the same proportions, but we did 55 times 77. So that's the same proportions, but it's much more elegant.
In just, what is it, like 10 days or so, you're going to be at Essen Spiel, right, in Germany?
Yes. Yeah. And for me, it's the first time in 4 years, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, I can see that. And you're going to have a bigger booth, you told me as well. So
yeah, we're expanding on the side, so we're going to have more gaming tables to try to show off, to show our games, and yeah.
Will people be able to try the dice game prototype?
Yeah, we will have dice game. We will have Angel Fury, of course. We will also have the expansion for After the Virus, which is our cooperative zombie killing game. and it's in production right now. We won't have copies for sale at Essen, but we're going to show it to people who want to see it.
Cool. Yeah. So if you're going there, make sure to go check out and try the dice game and the other games as well. But yeah, I think sadly I'm not going myself this year, but I'm going to back the Kickstarter, of course, and look forward to getting that. Well, I mean, I'm wishing you all the luck with the Kickstarter and the game, and with Essen as well. I will be giving you a call after Essen and ask you how it was, because I'm going to be jealous that I wasn't there.
Yeah, but you're going to send Draco, right?
Yeah. Draco will fly over, and
yeah,
I'll get him a camera and so on. So we'll see.
Yeah, and you can say hi. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Jonathan, and thanks to everyone who's watching. And again, in the description of the video is the link to the Kickstarter. Have a great evening or morning or whenever you're watching. Take care. Bye-bye.